Bureau meet to file reports, make recommendations, and survive on water that drips from the boiler pipes into our open mouths as we sleep on a bed of dot matrix printer paper. Maybe one day we'll escape from the subterranean hell that is this basement, but until that day comes, this city is not going to improve itself. So, here we stay, improving things. This meeting is now in session.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Queen City Chaos Bureau.
Oh, man. That was very chaotic.
It was very chaotic.
But now everything is copacetic.
Yes.
Yes.
I wouldn't go so far as to say copacetic.
Well, I just like went back in time 30 years to talk to myself from 1990.
Yeah.
And my 1990 self says, "Don't have a cow, man," because he was into The Simpsons at the time.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
You.
Well,
everybody was. Everybody was into The Simpsons.
That's an easy cut off the cuff for if I'm doing pop culture riffing.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey. Things, stuff, small talk, jibber jabber chat. How about we do attendance?
Hoobadoo. Yes. Okay. First attendee. You look really familiar. You do.
I doubt it.
You do. I know. I've seen you before.
People say that, and it turns out that I'm not who they think I am.
Really?
Yeah.
Aren't you that guy? Don't you write the City Hall beat on the local independent paper or something?
No.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, and if you're not, then you probably know Paul Deschênes. He looks just like you.
I do, actually, because he is me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Can I get his autograph?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't know how to write.
Darn. Well, you can't get my autograph either.
Yeah.
Do I know how to write? I'm not telling.
Okay.
I looked in the mirror earlier.
You wanted to know who you are, right?
Yeah, and I looked in the mirror earlier, and I'm like, I know that guy.
Yeah, you're Aidan Morgan.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm here too?
Yes.
So, do we have quorum?
No, we never do.
Oh, well. One day.
Yeah.
One day we'll have quorum, but we do have a guest.
We do have a guest.
And when I say we have a guest...
Yeah, did you want me to introduce the guest?
I do.
Okay. We have Councillor from Ward 1, Cheryl Stadnichuk.
I knew that.
Hey, Cheryl.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
In fact,
great to be here.
I think we should call you outgoing Councillor Cheryl Stadnichuk.
Yep.
Yeah, and I sometimes am an introvert, but I am outgoing at times too.
At this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You apparently are not going to be running in the election on November 13th.
Yeah, it's more than apparently I am not going to.
For sure?
Yeah. Yes, even though I've had a couple people try to bend my arm and convince me otherwise. But no, I am going to take a break from this. I will miss it, most of it. And there'll be some things I won't miss as much.
Well, surprise, we brought you down here to try and twist your arm and convince you to run for council again.
I'll let someone else be number one.
Okay.
Ward number one.
Right. Okay, fine. The reason we actually asked you down is not to convince you to run again, because you've clearly made your mind up. But yeah, we wanted to talk to you as an outgoing councillor. We wanted to get, with this election coming up, and there's going to be all these fresh-faced new councillors and all these candidates who've never run for office before running for office. And we wanted to get a survival guide to a new councillor, for a new councillor and for a council candidate.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you think you could give some of your sage advice?
Yeah, sure. No, I wrote down a couple of notes for some ideas, and some of them are, might seem really straightforward, like have one notebook for all the calls from residents.
Okay.
And I don't know if anyone else does that, but it is so handy to keep track of who's called you, and if they call you 4 months later and say, I called you and I asked about this, you can actually go back. You have your notes all together, and you can always be cross-referencing. Okay, well, I did forward that message, and I did do this, but keep everything in one booklet. You don't want to be looking for pieces of paper or having someone say that, you never called back. Well, I called you back on June 12th.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was kind of... Yeah, so I was just thinking that, given that the first thing, your first tip involves keeping track of who called you, like residents calling, it sounds like taking care of what the residents need is your first order of responsibility.
Well, it's a very important part of it. I think I spend a lot more time in Henry Baker Hall than I do returning phone calls, just because of the nature of this particular council. We've just spent a lot of time in meetings.
Right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And meetings run like 9 hours.
I know.
That's like an entire season of a TV show.
And they've doubled.
Yeah.
Wow. They've doubled from one executive and one council meeting per month to 2 executive and 2 council meetings per month. So it's a lot of time. And then we're having, like next week, we're having a council meeting on Wednesday and a special council meeting on Thursday.
What the what?
Yes, because we can't get through all the agenda items, and they keep getting tabled to the next council meeting.
Really?
Yes.
I've actually noticed that.
You have noticed that?
Yeah. It's hard not to.
Yeah. And because we spend so much time in meetings, here's my second tip, is be respectful to staff.
Oh.
Yes. City staff do such important work. They're there to answer all the tough questions. I think it's really important to be respectful. Sometimes it sounds like the questions are like the Spanish Inquisition, and nobody ever expects the Spanish Inquisition, right?
Right.
But, just like they're there to help and answer the questions and help council make good decisions.
Yeah.
So we need them, and we need them to give us the best advice possible. So there's 2 tips.
Those are good tips. It's sad that you'd think that like being respectful to staff would be something that could go unsaid.
Yes, and there was a motion early in our term from Councillor LeBlanc with that, wanting to amend the procedural bylaw to include respect for staff, and that didn't pass. And there's another one coming up, a motion next week on Wednesday dealing with the same issue.
Yeah, from Councillor Nelson.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that's actually going to go ahead, because that's been like bumped and bumped. It's been bumped and bumped,
but I'm pretty sure it's on the agenda. We'll see.
Okay. I'd be curious, because this is kind of like, it's bookending your time on council. You like started with a, hey, treat people nice, and you're ending on a, hey, treat people nice.
I know.
It's like you learn nothing in between.
That's right. Hey, treat people nice. Yeah.
What else? Okay, so I would have thought, though, like the most important advice with these meetings being so long is to like go pee when the break happens.
Well, that is an important part of it.
Yeah.
But
because like when I'm watching the I was going to call it movies, but they're not.
To me, they feel like longer than a movie. It would be like watching all of the Lord of the Rings, at once.
Yeah. But if I like, you want to make sure that you use those breaks to go to the bathroom.
Maybe that's what's going on. People are not getting up on their breaks, and they're just really irritated, and therefore they take it out on the staff.
Or like Hawkins is getting really grumpy because...
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Okay, well, those are 2 good pieces of advice for like a new councillor. Anything else? Like, what happens to like... How do you learn the rules of being in a council meeting?
Well, there will be some training for the new council after it's elected. And I'm not sure, I can't recall, because we were elected during COVID, right? Mm-hmm. So we did have some sessions, but I want to think that it might have been a full week, but it was at least 4 days. And every day was a different topic, from municipal financing to this or that. And we did one on sort of like how the meetings are run.
Yeah.
And there is a procedural bylaw, 9,000 and whatever number it is, 9,005, I think, the procedural bylaw. So it's based on, other rules of order, but it's one specific for Regina City Council. So you read through it, and I think for a new councillor, when you first read through it, you might not understand or follow everything, but it's really important to maybe take a couple sections and just think about them. So try to understand in terms of different motions, what it means to table a motion. When you're referring, what are the rules around that? You can always ask staff for a supplemental report. And the one that bugs me a lot is friendly amendments, because sometimes they're not that friendly.
So what do you mean by a friendly amendment?
Well, friendly amendment, someone will put up a motion and then someone says, well, I have a friendly amendment. I'd like to change, this word to a different word. And sometimes it's not really friendly. It might change the meaning of the motion or the intention of the motion.
Right.
So everybody thinks that their motion is friendly, and I think that happened a couple of times where, there's a date or a time or amount put into the motion, and someone says, no, I don't. The mover doesn't want it. But anyways, just trying to understand that, I would suggest they watch a couple of meetings.
Yeah,
smart.
As well, or attend. Next week they could attend 2 meetings, so they'd get
18 hours.
Yeah, or whatever it will be. Yeah.
18 hours.
And see what happens.
I think anybody who's decided to run should actually go to a couple of meetings and then think long and hard about whether they really want to run.
Right.
So,
yeah. And every councillor, too, will get a chance to be deputy mayor. So it kind of rotates through everybody, and that's when you really need to know the rules of order. But you also have the clerk at your side to kind of help you. But I think that it's important to note that the chair sets the tone. And
what do you mean by that?
Well, it's important to set a good, positive tone.
Yeah.
And if people are, like, after someone has closed debate, you don't say, oh, someone else wants to speak on it, and just say, okay, well, we'll just let you speak on it, even though so-and-so has already closed debate. No. Yeah. I say you otherwise your meetings will go longer than 9 hours if you keep doing things like that.
Yep. Yeah. You should say, does anyone want to grandstand? And then you'll get some councillors.
Yeah.
That'll get Hawkins standing up.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, I did. But I'm also going to say we're on 91.3 FM CJTR Regina Community Radio. We're the Aiden is over there, and I'm Paul, and we're here with Councillor Cheryl Stadnichuk talking about her survival guide for new councillors.
Okay.
Are you going to publish that? You should publish it as like an ebook.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, what would be good is to get a couple of people's input, because I think you're going to be talking to Andrew Stevens at some point.
That is the hope.
And he has 2 terms, so he has 2 different experiences over the 2 terms, and he would probably have some good advice.
Well, that's right. You only have 1 term.
I know, and I really think 2 terms would be good. But
I think so too.
But yeah. So another tip I was going to say is that
you could announce right now.
Another tip I was going to give was whether or not councillors should do house calls.
Oh my God! Do you do house calls?
Well, some people do, and I have done a couple, but and it's usually if it's an elderly resident,
right,
who's trying to explain a situation, and it's really sometimes you just can't quite get a good understanding of what is going on. With their neighbor's property or whatever. So I have done a couple of house calls. Residents really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it helps you then advocate for the issue a little bit better if you've actually seen it. Because sometimes you get a call and someone will give you a story, sob story that sounds really horrible, and then you find out, well, there's actually another story there, and bylaw enforcement had been there, et cetera, but because I've heard that sometimes there's bylaw enforcement issues between neighbors that's gone on for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And if you're a new councillor and you come into it and, sometimes you might want to check with staff to see if the history of what's been going on.
That's really good advice, yeah. Yeah. Because the staff has been, although the staff lately seems to be turning over very quickly. But they would have, like, the history and the records on everything.
Yeah.
Have you had, like, any, like, has there been anything completely crazy or wild that you've had to deal with, and you don't have to name any names?
Well, early in my term, again, I was a bit naive, and a woman had called me about, it was during the winter, somebody who had been on her street who keeps doing wheelies, spinning, coming on the ice, on the icy road, and then spinning around, and she was worried that they were going to hit cars, et cetera, and she said when she called the police, she didn't get a response because it wasn't in action by the time. So they couldn't do anything, and they didn't know the car, they didn't know the license plate. So she called me to say, they're back. I know they're back. So I decided to drive out.
And it turned out it was Councillor Zakidniak.
But I drove out and I thought, okay, I'm going to write down the license plate and then we'll get this to the police and we'll get this sorted out. And a young man came out of the house and just said, may I help you? But anyway, I told him that there had been complaints and he said, okay, we'll be more careful. And when I spoke to the police officer about it afterwards, he said, we don't recommend that you go and check out complaints like this in person. It could be dangerous. Yeah. So I was lucky. Nothing dangerous happened, but...
Yeah. I mean, I was
naive.
It wasn't something truly dangerous like Councillor Zakidniak,
with a knife.
After having, like, binge-watched all the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah. So, get in, Cheryl. We're going to do crime.
And I don't have to worry, too, about not being there for a second term, because if Councillor Zakidniak is re-elected, we kind of share a brain. We have a lot of the same ideas.
And everybody mixes up your names.
And everyone mixes us up, so there'll be no more mix-ups.
I'm not going to lie, when I was doing that bit, I thought I was terrified of accidentally saying your name instead of Shannon's. It's like, don't mess it up, Aiden. Don't mess it up.
Yeah. I like when you've been called Cheryl Stadniak or Zakidnichuk is another one. Yeah.
Well, now you have a Halloween costume. You and Shannon.
Yeah, as one person.
They put on like one of those big T-shirts.
Well, and we thought maybe we should go by, because even Shannon and Cheryl, kind of a similar kind of sound. Yeah. And I said, maybe we should go by our second names. Then we found out we both have a middle name, Louise.
Oh.
Because we're both named after our mothers, whose names are Louise. So there you go. We couldn't even go by our second names because it would be even more confusing.
So it's really nobody's fault but your own or your parents'.
Is it possible that, like, the Louises are actually the same person, and you actually one day find out you have the same mother?
I don't think so, because my mother passed away. So yeah, and I have met her mother, so
fair enough.
I know they're quite different.
Okay.
Because I thought it would be a great telenovela plot going on. But okay.
So, during your time on council, I think it would be safe to say that you have had some scandals. Not you personally, but your council.
Yes.
There have been some scandals that have blasted through. I kind of wanted to ask you about the very first one, which was the sponsorship motion, where you guys voted in an executive committee meeting to not accept advertising from oil and gas companies on city facilities as a way to sort of, show your, commitment to, going green and, achieving, net zero emissions. And this exploded, because it's conceivable that, the new council is going to come in and they'll do something similar and have the same experience. Like, what would you, can you tell us a little bit about what that was like on your side of things? And, is there any advice you'd give to somebody who's new to council who gets, besieged by a controversy like this?
Well, I mean, in a way, it shouldn't have been as controversial as it was, regardless of what you think about the topic, but it was at executive committee. Yeah. And then it's going to be a recommendation to council. It's not a final decision. It gives people time to think, to get feedback from residents. I mean, you should be getting feedback. I mean, but unfortunately, in this situation, the feedback was well organized and was so heavy it was unbelievable.
And it was from outside of Regina.
And it was from outside of Regina, outside of the province even. So that was a very unusual incident. So far, I don't think we've had any sponsorship from any oil and gas companies for any city projects.
No.
We have a pool in the library to pay for.
Get names for.
We could. No, but there hasn't been any. So it was the big
Chevron Library.
Hubbub about nothing, because there hasn't been any sponsorship. So it's not like we were taking money away from any organizations.
Right. Was it psychologically hard, though, to face that kind of criticism?
It was, because you're a brand new councillor, you're getting tons of calls. They were the people who did the organizing, the pushback, were very good, because they had people call us. We were getting lots of emails, and if you get a group email, you know that it's part of a chain program. What are they called? Click email, whatever it is called. I don't know what it is. Where you click on a petition and it goes to everybody.
So they don't even write something.
But when you get phone calls, it is quite different, because people are angry, and there were so many phone calls that I would just be listening to a message and writing it down and hang up when there'd be a new one. Like, that's how quickly things heated up during that week.
Wow. But
again, I think that's why you have that break between an executive committee or any other committee and council. It's a bit of time for reflection.
Right.
And I think it would even be better if it wasn't every week, because if this council, the next council, could go back to fewer meetings and just try to be more disciplined in terms of how they get through those meetings, it just gives you a little more time to think through some of the reports and decisions that you're making.
Yeah. How much reading do you have to do in a week?
Oh, quite a lot. And it does depend on the week. Like, it's not uncommon when there's a lot of heavy reports that are on the agenda, that it could be 900 pages, right?
Yeah.
But I'd say the average is probably in the 200 to 400 page range.
Right. So you guys are doing meetings that can run during a week up to like the length of a season of Game of Thrones. And then you also have to read like one or two packages of documents that are about as thick as a Robert Jordan novel.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of reading.
That's a lot.
And here's another tip. I just think that if there's something you don't understand, I mean, you could wait and ask at the meeting.
Yeah.
But you could also send an email to staff and say, there's this section in the report that I just do not understand. I have a lot of questions. What does this mean? What are the implications of this? And that's also very helpful in terms of making your meeting then more fruitful.
Could you send a message about that to like some of the people you're leaving behind?
Yes, I often am under my breath saying, that could have been an email.
Yeah. Well, we've got about 6 minutes here, 5 minutes. I wanted to know what's the most rewarding part of your time?
I think meeting people in the community, knowing that you're helping residents. I mean, I thought I knew Regina fairly well because I'd lived here most of my adult life. I came here for university. And then you get invited to all of these different community events, or an opening of the Regina Early Learning Centre, or something that the food bank is doing, India Night, which is raising money for an organization. And you meet so many other people in the community, and it just broadens. It's really heartening because you see how many great people there are in the city doing really, really good work. So I think that's probably the most rewarding. And then I do get calls from people who thank me for helping them out on something. And sometimes the thanks, maybe I do deserve the credit, but a lot of times it's good city staff. that have responded and dealt with the issue, and they're giving me credit. And I said, well, I didn't actually go put up that lower speed sign. It was staff that did it, and they made the decision. I just passed on the message, right? But it's it is good communicating with people in the area, because there's often what you get. You follow council meetings, which I think you should get a medal for it. Nice. Because who wants all of the journalists that have to sit through these long meetings, but other people just see the headlines. So I think it's also really important to try to communicate what some of these decisions mean. Because sometimes people have misunderstandings of what that is. So going to the community association meetings and talking about some of the decisions council's made, that was always really helpful. And they're doing good stuff in their community too.
Yeah.
Helping improve their neighborhoods.
What about best change that you guys have overseen over the last 4 years?
Best change. There are a couple of good things, but because we've made a lot of good decisions, on the energy and sustainability framework. We're a little bit slow in implementing some of it. There's been some good changes for transit. And we're going to get the electric buses. We have under 13 free transit. Or is it 13 and under? 13 and under.
That's right. Yeah.
And we have an Indigenous artist in residence. We're a bird-friendly city, and we've got our own city bird.
Yeah.
We have an Indigenous procurement policy, and we went from our Indigenous businesses and consultants that had business with the city went from 300,000 to 3 million in 9 months or something like that. So there's some really good things. Yeah. And the North Central Motion and the Young Growing Movers, Growing Young Movers, GEM, a lot of hope. And with some of the housing changes too, I think that I feel very hopeful that there's going to be some really good positive things.
Awesome.
For the city. So I can't point to just one thing, because there's been a lot of little things that we sometimes forget.
That's true. Yeah. Because I think I may perhaps focus on big annoying things.
Yes.
Speaking of.
Yes.
We should go to innovative revenue tools.
We should.
Yeah. And
are those big annoying things?
No, those are not the big annoying things.
I was trying to figure out your segue, whether it was the innovative revenue tools or the fact that you turned to look at me.
Yeah, no, this is one of those segues where I opened my mouth and turned my brain off. And just hope that things would go smoothly from that point on.
Because I'm 5'4" on a good day, so that's not that big. Maybe annoying.
And we're back from innovative revenue tools.
Already?
Yeah, wow. Sorry, man.
That was quick.
That was quick.
Wow, not very innovative.
Well, it's because we're the Queen City Chaos Bureau this week.
Wow, maybe the tools were so innovative, they were just compressed and delivered at supersonic frequencies.
Exactly. People will there will be great services and products in the city that people will have be compelled to go out and participate in.
They will dream of
and they won't know why exactly.
And the dogs heard it. They'll bark them out.
Yeah. It'll be Dream Regina will be very active. All right. Cheryl, Aiden.
Yes.
We've got news.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of news. First of all, you were mentioning things that have changed, and one of them is transit. And there is now a new transit system for paying. It is called UMO.
I think that's how it is, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you now are able to pay for transit with an app, a UMO app. I haven't signed up for this yet, because all we have are Commodore 64s down here.
Right.
And I'm still waiting to download the driver to just use the printer.
You have a 64? I just have a Commodore PET.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got my hand-me-down PET. Okay, so we can't use the UMO down here. But, so this is a mobile app. You can also get a reloadable UMO card.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's UMO, but I'm going to call it UMO because it looks like UMO to me.
Okay. Well, some marketing exec at the city is going to be awful mad at you.
Yeah, I'm getting dinged.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you go down the app from like an app store, whichever one you use, and then follow the directions.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, this is just the first stage. In 2025, they'll be implementing a system so that you can pay for transit with your debit or credit card.
Perfect.
Or with Apple Pay.
Oh, with Apple Pay too. I didn't even know that.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, it's not here on my list, but I remember it from a press release. Yeah. And for those of you who still have an R card, you're like lame-os who are still using these old R cards.
It's just announced.
Antiquated. We're already behind the times.
Yeah. August 13th, and we're all obsolete now.
And I tried an R card today.
And?
The signs it out of order, and they just waved me onto a seat.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you can still use the R card until, is it the end of October?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to use up my R card then.
And you can get your the contents of your R card transferred onto your UMO card between now and December 31st.
Yeah.
So if you have a whole bunch of rides, you can get them moved over. This was kind of a surprise because I was just like sitting there on August 13th.
Why don't they call it UMO?
And I got it. That's a good question.
City, you done goofed.
Yeah.
City of Regina. Anyway.
Unless this is like some Gen Z thing where they like shorten everything down so it's no more than 3 letters.
That could be. But I mean, if you're Gen Z and if you're 13 or under, you ride free anyway.
Hey, what do they
that's
care?
Gen Alpha. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get everything handed to them on a plate.
Yeah.
They get their bus rides free and their dental work done.
Yeah.
And they don't have to have jobs.
Huh.
Man.
Didn't you get your ride free today, old man?
I mean, like I said, I'm like 5'4" on a good day. They probably thought I was like 13 or under.
Right. Okay.
With your ball cap on.
Exactly. It's my ball cap and my gray beard.
Yeah.
like lots of kids these days. Yes.
Yeah. You did the transit challenge.
I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was something that had been pitched year after year after year after year, and at best a Ward 3 councillor would turn up for it. And this one seemed to like attract a good chunk of council.
Well,
that was Dylan
I think
Moran.
it was only like 3 or 4, wasn't it?
That's
like 4 times as many as the usual.
That's pretty chunky for the transit challenge.
Yeah. Well, and I spent 6 months in Ottawa where they did have an automated card that you could upload on all your credits online. And I traveled on transit, and I just found it was a great time to do email, catch up on things, because you can't do that when you're driving, right? So even though it's a short from where I live to go downtown is a short bus ride, you can still do things.
Yeah.
Hassle-free.
Yeah, 100%. And they also were saying in this press release that there's going to be a lot more rides, like more routes are going to be rolling out, so the buses will be more frequent. So
that is part
exciting.
of the master transit plan, right? So I can't wait till some of those improvements take place, because everyone says it's kind of a chicken and egg. You need more people to ride the bus in order to have more frequency, but you also need more frequency to encourage more people to ride the bus. So.
Right. Yeah. I think we should just, I don't know what to do. Force everybody to take the bus. Take their cars.
Idea.
What?
I have an idea.
Okay.
We institute a community safety zone.
Ooh, I'm starting to like this.
In various neighborhoods. But instead of 30 kilometers per hour or 40, we reduce the speed to 0 kilometers per hour.
That's good.
The only vehicles that you can use are public transit.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And one thing I know about residents in Regina is that they love not being able to drive their cars.
Yeah,
so
they love
this
that.
will be like an absolute gift for them.
Yeah, so like Albert could be like the Autobahn for buses, but everybody else is just walking. I like it.
Yeah, ausgezeichnet.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so that's good news. Also, there's virtually no updates on who's running for council.
Oh.
Yeah, so from last week, the only addition that we've had...
Well, besides Brandon Abtoswe?
Yeah, so that was last week. Letitia Ostrich is running in Ward 5. Councillor Findura hasn't declared yet whether he's running or not.
No, he hasn't, so I'm not sure.
But Letitia is a former City of Regina employee. from 2008 to 2023. Wow. And she was a supervisor of city initiatives in, Core Ritchie and North Central. Okay. So that's exciting.
Yeah. It would be nice to actually have someone who's worked for the city involved in city politics.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They could abuse the staff from their vantage point.
They can
they'll be like, ah ha ha ha.
I've got so much beef that I'm going to sort through now. You never contributed to the coffee fund.
I'd like to speak to Terrence.
See, I didn't want to use a name on the off chance out of the 2,000 people or whatever it is who work there.
Yeah, exactly. There might be a Terrence. I don't know.
Yeah.
But who knows? Did you, while you were in council, did you ever run across a Terrence?
I can't say I have.
Okay.
No.
Okay, I think we're safe then.
Yeah.
All right. So next up on my agenda, because I wanted to, while you were here, I wanted to talk about yesterday's 9-hour executive committee meeting.
Well, there was a lunch break.
For you, we don't get food down here. I had to hunt.
So you're so thin and pasty white because you're in this basement all the time.
We hunt creatures in the vents for our food.
Yeah, so that's what we have. That's what we're doing during your breaks, foraging and hunting. So it was your first meeting after, what was it, 2 weeks or 3 weeks off?
3 weeks off.
Yeah, and you came back like a bomb. 9 a.m. on a Wednesday and went for 9 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. And there were big things on this agenda.
There were a lot of big things on the agenda.
Yeah. There was so the one that I was most curious to talk to you about was the indoor aquatic facility, which we've been hearing about for a long time. Like as long as we've been doing these meetings on the radio, there's been talk about a plan to do an indoor aquatic facility. And it, once again, I guess it was a year or two ago, it looked like we were really close to everything happening. And then the Catalyst Committee started and was like, well, maybe we should, instead of doing the pool, it's the field house like we've been talking about for 10 years. Well, what about doing it in the yards? And so we spent a year wondering about that. But now we're now back at the field house by the Taylor Field site.
Yes. And
they're going to be putting in this indoor aquatic center. But we were told before $160 million to build this. The new, more precise estimate is $245 million. Yeah. So an $80 million increase. That must have been a gut punch.
Well, it was surprising. And we had heard ahead that the costs had gone up, but we didn't know by how much. So it is significantly more. But we also had in that report some examples from other cities that have also seen some pretty severe increases because of inflation to a lot of their projects as well.
Yeah.
So this is happening across the country. And when you think about it, the $245 million is still a better deal than Mosaic Stadium. If you look at the cost of that and how much it's used compared to how much this indoor aquatics facility is going to be used.
Right.
And it's built, 11, it'll be built 10 or 11 years after Mosaic Stadium. And the price tag is still, it seems high, but it's still a good deal compared to what we paid for Mosaic Stadium.
Yeah, when you think Mosaic Stadium is not in action year round, and what we know from all of our aquatic facilities is that they're, from when they open to when they close, they are packed with people.
Actually, I heard that the new pool will only be open a dozen days per year, and there will be no roof. So,
well, that'd be nice. That's a good way to save. That's a good way to save some money.
The outgoing councillor disagrees with Paul.
Were you just fact checked?
I think so.
And the other aspect of it too is the geothermal. So, that's going to be a pretty exciting addition to that area, and we don't know the potential of it, but it's possible that it could be providing some heat for beyond the indoor aquatics facility. We don't know yet.
Yeah, my understanding is that geothermal, there's a lot of upfront investment in making it happen, but the savings are substantial. So and you get a lot of surplus power, as you were saying. So, yeah.
I was surprised that... So my understanding was that the geothermal project and the pool project were kind of interlinked, because that was one of the things that happened at the end of the Catalyst thing, is that this geothermal thing got glommed onto the end of the pool to add to it being like a green facility. I was surprised that the geothermal team wasn't there yesterday to, give sort of trumpet what they've been doing and, talk up what it's going to contribute to the whole.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure why they weren't there. Maybe because I think the financing is already part of that. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, they weren't there. But it also sounded, I think what I recall staff saying was that originally it was going to be kind of attached to the facility, and now it's going to be separate.
Okay.
I think that's what I recall.
But
that's what happens after a long meeting, is that you think, I think that's what I heard. And you have to check if you have it in your notes or go back and listen to the meeting.
Yeah. I heard, though, that there will be like a report. I don't know if it's at next week's meeting or, the executive committee meeting in 2 weeks, because you have so many frickin' meetings. If it will be, there will be a presentation by Geothermal about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I heard that in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. You were
there.
Paying attention.
Yeah. But with the geothermal, I think it was $13 million. They said for the facility. Like it's.
No, I think it's more than that. It's.
Yeah.
Oh, again, I don't have my notebook with me, but I think we're in the $20 to $30 million range, aren't we?
Oh, you know what? I might just. What I wrote down was $13.8 million, but that might just be the city's portion.
Okay.
Or something. I don't know. Don't trust anything we're saying now.
Everyone's wondering.
We have an exhausted councillor and 2 idiots. The other thing that we learned, which was a complete surprise, I think it was a complete surprise to you as well, is that, so we had been told that the Lawson Pool had to be demolished as part of this project because it was supposed to be a green project, and the old pool was, like leaking chlorine. I don't know. It was like shooting bears, and and so it needed to be dismantled, decommissioned. But now we've learned that doesn't have to happen.
Yes, that was a surprise. So.
And how'd you feel about it?
Well, I just remember, did I think I asked out loud, did we just hear that? And it was clarified, yes, that was the case. But I think staff said that they only found out 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And it is a surprise, but we still have to realize that it's a 50-year-old pool building. There have been lots of upgrades. It's at the end of its life. Yeah. I hear from the women that go there regularly for aquasize about the problems that they have to deal with when they go to that building. I said, well, that's why we need a new indoor aquatics facility, because there are just constant maintenance issues with that pool.
Yeah.
So it would be, and I think the estimate would be $20 to $28 million to do renovations to keep it going for another maybe 10 or 15 years. So I think that's the big question. Do we want to spend that kind of money? I don't think we have lots of money to throw around. So if we're going to do something, we should concentrate on the indoor facility.
Yeah. Staff also pointed out that when you're doing maintenance like this and you start opening up stuff that's 50 years since that door was opened, you find things on the other side that mean that the price is going to go up. So that $28 million was a very, very guesstimate of a quote. Yeah. And they said that it could go another 5 years, which is which I think is lowball how long it's going to take to get this IAF off the ground. So
I'm crossing my fingers.
Yeah. There was also, Councillor Nelson raised this, that the $245 million is a Class C estimate. So according to your staff, that means there could be a variation of between plus and minus 15% on that cost estimate. So that means if it's on the absolute high end, that would be another $24.5 million. Oh, no. That's more than that. like $49 million added on to it if it's at the top end. Like that's concerning.
Well, we've also been told that the longer we delay, it's going to cost. I heard the figure two different ways: either $1 million a month or $1 million a week.
Right.
Of more inflation or escalating costs the longer that we delay with the pool. So that concerns me. But
so what did you guys vote to do at the executive committee meeting yesterday?
Oh, it was, well, I didn't vote in favor of this. It was referred. It was... I
think that's called a delay, Cheryl.
It's called a delay, yes. Referred till October 2nd.
Oh my gosh, that's many weeks.
That's many weeks. So that's, I don't know how many $1 million. Depends if it's per month or week.
Right.
We'll need to clarify that.
Yeah.
It's more millions than you want to spend.
Exactly.
I'll say it that way.
Yeah. We're on 91.3 FM CJTR, Regina Community Radio. We're the Queen City Improvement Bureau. I'm Paul. Aidan is here. And we're also speaking with Councillor Cheryl Zakidniak. I did it.
You did it.
Did
my
it.
God.
Nice.
And that wasn't intentional. Stadnichuk. From Ward 1. Sorry.
It's been a long day.
It has. Yeah. We're the Chaos Bureau.
We are.
We're getting nobody's names right.
Yay.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen? So this has been put off. The mayor wants to get... what do we have here? There's supposed to be more studies done. So the mayor was the one who passed this referral motion. Her motion has three parts. A, to allow time to approach both the federal and provincial governments to pursue and advocate for inflationary increases to the ICIP funding, which is the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. Yeah. So and that's where we're getting this federal and provincial money from. So they want to ask for inflationary increase on that. Also, to direct administration to do an RFP for a consultant to look for private philanthropy to help backstop some of the cost. And then also for administration to do, I don't even know what any of this means. Get pro formas, capital investment, basically look into other ways to pay for this from the federal government annual transfers and the capital transfers and stuff. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Without impacting
roads,
residential streets.
Yeah, so basically taking gas tax money maybe and using it on the pool. Do you have thoughts that you can share about this referral?
Well, I would have appreciated knowing that this referral was going to come up in advance, and I'm sure that staff would have appreciated that too. It's a delay. I'm not sure. I do want the mayor and administration and everybody who has any connection with the federal government and the provincial government to lobby for additional money because, it's going to turn out instead of being a three-way project, it's going to be mostly city funded and mostly by debt unless we can get some additional funding. So, but I'm not sure if that could that not happen while we're starting the work on the pool? I'm not sure. Yeah. But I would have preferred a shorter delay, like maybe the September meeting. And again, this pool has been talked about and has been a priority in the Recreation Master Plan and was the number one priority in the Catalyst Committee. So I'm not sure why now we're asking these kinds of questions when we should already be further along with this whole project.
The original motion was to approve a total project cost of $245 million for option one. So there were three options for what the plan, a reduced plan, and even more reduced plan. Yeah. So all the original motion is to approve the project cost for the pool that was being approved. Yeah. And then to direct administration to bring forward a report to council by the second quarter of 2025 outlining funding options for the cost increase of $84 million. So it seems that the original motion was kind of was just basically give the go-ahead to the pool so we can start doing work on it, because they've already had the design money approved.
Yes.
And they have that in their pocket so they could do work. And we will go out and do all of this stuff that seems to have been added to this motion. It almost feels like this is a delay that didn't really need to be there, or am I reading too much into this?
To me, I see it the same way, but I would love an explanation of why now. And again, I think there are a number of us that are concerned. There's probably going to be, I don't know if I should give you the scoop, because it'll be on tomorrow's agenda, on tomorrow's council agenda. Is there's going to be a notice of motion, a motion to reconsider the decision on the funding decision on the library, because that took a big chunk of our debt room, and so there are a couple of councillors who have set that today to clerks, and it'll be on the agenda tomorrow as a notice of motion to reconsider that decision, because I think the pool is the priority right now, and we don't have a lot of debt room, and even if we apply for more debt room and get more room to borrow, there's still the costs of borrowing and the costs of servicing that debt that we have to take into consideration.
Yeah. And the pool project is so much farther along than the library. Like the library, we don't even know whether they're going, like it still seems to be open about whether or not they're going to stay at their location, tear down and rebuild, or, renovate. Like it seems they are forever at square one and questioning their original assumptions. And yet they have this earmark on $119 million now, and meanwhile the pool, we have like engineering drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And again, it was the number one priority in both the rec plan and Catalyst. So why did we go through that whole process of that Catalyst committee if we're going to take things out of order?
Yeah, that's a very good point. All right. Well, one last thing before we're done. You guys also have another reconsideration motion. It's the permanent emergency shelter. You voted in favor of that location, I believe, up on Albert Street? Yeah. So you guys are going to reconsider that. Do you know if it's still open and that you could buy it still?
I don't know that. And so I'm sure that administration will have information for us on Wednesday, if it's discussed Wednesday or Thursday, because again, there's a lot of motions that have been kicked into the August meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when it'll be decided, but we'll see what administration, because they were also asked to look for other possible sites. So we'll see what happens. And again, it was by one vote, I believe, that location failed.
Yeah. And you didn't have a full complement of council for that meeting either, did you?
Oh.
Well, maybe you did. We
might have.
I don't know. They all bleed into one another at this point.
I know, that's why I have to. It's important to keep notes. Tip for new councillors. Yeah. I even have started now putting on who voted which way, because sometimes I wonder, how did so-and-so vote on that? And then I can just refer to it in my own notes. Yeah. Smart.
Mm-hmm. I searched my Twitter feed, actually, to find all this out.
Well, or, you could look at at Paul's Twitter feed and you could find out how things happened.
Yeah.
Screenshot. You could do a booklet of screenshots of council votes so everybody know how everybody voted.
I want to do screenshots more of how everybody looks just before the votes happen. We should talk to Graham, the guy who one of the people who videos the meetings, to get more close-ups when things are going really badly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We want more drama.
More drama?
More dramatic camera work.
Yes.
Okay.
We want even better production values, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And fireworks. And music.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are pretty much near the end, but do you have anything, any last bit of wisdom you want to share for any potential new councillors?
I would say try to get to know your other councillors, and I hope that you try to get to know each other and find ways of working together. You're never going to agree 100% on everything, and we don't even want, groupthink. But, try to get a sense of where people are coming from, what their priorities are, and try to work together.
Cool. What are you guys' Christmas parties like?
We don't have Christmas parties.
I'm not surprised.
We have never had a Christmas party as a group of councillors or any gathering as a group of, like a social gathering.
Right. And you guys aren't going to have like a rager to end off this council term? Just like trash Henry Baker on election day?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
You might have to talk to Councillor Stevens about that one.
Okay.
Okay. We will. We'll pitch the rager.
Andrew, how about a rager?
All right. Well, I think that's about it.
All right. I move to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
Motion passed. Meeting is closed. You've been listening to the Queen City Improvement Bureau on 91.3 FM CJTR. Regina Community Radio. Tune into the community. Your hosts are Paul Shen and Aidan Morgan. Our guest today, outgoing councillor Cheryl Stadichuk. Not Zakidniak. Ooh. Curses. Music is by Ryan Hill, a.k.a. Guidewire. We are broadcast live Thursday evening, 7 to 8 p.m. We broadcast Monday afternoons, 3 to 4 p.m. Find us at cjtr.ca as well, on our website, queencityib.com, for archived recordings. Also, you can find us on Twitter, and we're also on our own accounts on Blue Sky. Isn't that fun? I think that's it. Keep on improving, Regina.